Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Yes panel session and also the winner's announcement at the end of the panel. So now we're just going to have a very casual chit-chat with the Yes Award finalists to just understand more about the behind the scenes of their pitches, what compelled them to tackle that project or problem, come up with the solutions that they talk about, and just get to know them a little bit better as well. So yeah, let's get started. So maybe before we start, just so that the audience here remember who you guys are and what you guys talk about, maybe let's do one round of introduction. We can share from Tim or maybe from Vanessa, and we just go consecutively. Okay, Tim, you want to go first?
Yeah. Hi, test. Hi, my name's Tim. I'm founder of a market research software company that uses WhatsApp for data collection, and the title of the pitch was 6 times higher response rates with WhatsApp.
Hi, I'm Theo. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Digital Bytes. My startup develops a software to design and implement virtual reality-based market research. And yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Harry. I'm from Reputation Leaders in the UK, and I essentially use ChatGPT to build a piece of software that codes open-end responses.
Hello, my name is Tim. I'm from Human Aid in the Dutch office, and my pitch was about AI-driven insights and how it transforms market research.
So I'm Brian Short, working for Kerry Group in Ireland, and my pitch was around Future Lens, so our foresight framework, which was titled Embracing Uncertainty to Deliver a Better Tomorrow.
Hi, my name is Jamie Smits. I'm from Skim, and my pitch is about how to tackle cultural response bias.
Hello, my name's Vanessa Kwok. I work at NEPA and I'm based in London and I work as a data scientist. My pitch was called From Complexity to Clarity, Democratizing Data Analysis.
Okay, thank you everyone. So we have quite a diverse mix of finalists here from different countries, different background. We have 2 startup founders who are delivering new solutions for market research, but also a mix of people who came up with solutions for the research process or to enhance the outcomes of research with new methodology, for example, with what Future Lens is doing. So let's talk a bit more about the inspiration behind what you do and what you hope to achieve through the stuff that you do, the one that you talk about in your pitch. Maybe we can start with the 2 startup founders and share a bit more about the idea and how you've found that market gap.
Cool. I think a lot of people are going to come later, so I'm not going to give it all away. But so I'm from South Africa, and data collection in Africa is very different to the West. And so if you just think about sort of mobile and digital accessibility, most people do not have email, but they do have a mobile. And so we saw that it was really tricky to collect data from sort of particularly lower income segments in South Africa and then Africa at large. And WhatsApp is a really interesting channel because it's got such a high penetration of the internet population. It's between sort of 92 and 96% in South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya, and other markets as well. So we could see that this is now a channel that enables us to reach people that were otherwise sort of not reachable digitally, and that's sort of really how it started.
Yeah, and that's the really compelling need as well, and not just in Africa, in many countries in Asia as well. People don't use emails and they rely on WhatsApp. So, yeah. Theodore?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I don't have a traditional background in market research in the sense of working in an agency at some point in my career or something. Honestly, my background is in food science. My first job was in the R&D, kind of as a product manager job. So some insights maybe, but still not to that extent, maybe of the other people here, right? I actually had the task to kind of find a tool to validate our products or a process better to validate our products in the food company I was working at. And trying to demo different platforms, I got to understand the methodologies, what they do, and I wasn't really, let's say, pleased with what I found. I found everything was too superficial, and that could not work for our case. Especially food products, you have to first develop them in the lab and then test them with real consumers. So it takes a lot more time to do a product cycle, which is not good. It's not agile at all. So naturally, I think being involved a bit with tech, gaming, and having some other interests, I thought to myself that maybe this could be a potential solution. Obviously, it didn't start the way it is now. So after several iterations, it reached this point. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. So you came up with the VR solutions basically to test packaging. And Tim, I think you also came up with VR personas, right? No, AI personas.
Yeah, so
okay, yeah. So I'll let you talk more about what you do.
So yeah, so I worked on a project with one of our clients, Beyond Meat, and what we did was we used the different personas which we identified already in a previous study. So like basically a consumer segment, and we brought it to life with AI. So we created basically like a virtual chatbot for them to engage. And yeah, like it was very interesting because so the main point of the presentation wasn't really about this specific case study, but then actually like what's going to be possible with it. So it was like taking a lot of like the concept of deep learning and this kind of stuff. And I think the results for Beyond Meat was that they understood the consumer better. They understood who their consumer target should be, and they could make then strategic decisions based on that.
So tell us a bit more about how you did it.
Well, so we basically, I don't know how much I can reveal actually. Well, basically, so we've done this study and we've fed the UNA study findings. We fed it to our own AI, AI capabilities. And this information then we used to generate more virtual data. So there wasn't just real data, which we found out before, but then also through this data and through our like deep learning models and algorithms, we were able to generate much more to it. So not just like in terms of like, are you male or female, or like where you from, but then also like kind of like, hey, what's your favorite type of ketchup? Or, like obviously, yeah, like sometimes even very niche, and sometimes you wouldn't even like think of it in particular, like of, who would be a consumer of Beyond Meat. But in the end, it created like this whole, like it felt like a real person. So when we done a workshop with them, with the client, and we invited a lot of like employees from Beyond Meat, they could emotionally connect with those consumer segments, and that's, I think, really important as well. Like they were just able to like, okay, I kind of understand that this kind of consumer segment group, they like to drive a Tesla, right? Like that's different to this other consumer segment group who's just like, I don't know, like is fine with just driving a Volkswagen Golf or something like this. So all this kind of information, just bringing them to life was like quite important.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll move on to my next question. So I'm sure throughout the course of your projects or coming up with your new solutions, you encounter a lot of challenges. So what unique challenges did you face during your pursuing your projects, your solutions, your new products, and how did you overcome them? Maybe Jamie, you want to take that on and talk more about the localization versus translation idea that you came up with.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I tried crafting different question phrasings to find a way to solve, or at least to overcome part of cultural response bias. And I thought, you know what, I need to start really at the start, because I'm going to do this in multiple markets. And if I'm just going to send it to a translation agency, that's already the first step where it could have some inconsistencies. So I started interviewing translation agencies, and I already learned that some of the things that we put in our questionnaires, like the KPI, this is relevant to me, doesn't even translate directly to all languages. So for example, in Japan, you need to provide more context, like this is more relevant. This is relevant to my lifestyle or to my needs. But you cannot just say this is relevant to me, which means that if you don't brief your translation agency like that, you already create inconsistencies within your own multi-market study. And I'm glad I did, because that's how I could prevent those inconsistencies. But I thought this is really a challenge that you need to be aware of before you start doing multi-market research.
And how did you convince the people in your team to pursue this?
To pursue what exactly?
So you interview translation agencies, you try to correct the culture response bias. So was it your own initiative? And how did you tell your colleagues or bosses that, look, I want to do this and make sure that we correct this issue?
Well, I think because for a lot of people, they really recognize this from their own work. So if you're doing multi-market research, especially in markets that are across the globe, then you'll see that some markets have really high scores or lower scores. And usually that's not only because they have a different opinion, some of it is also because of other reasons. And so that's also what I said in my pitch. It's not a new challenge, but it's still a big challenge in market research. So I didn't have to do a lot of convincing.
Everyone knew that there's a problem.
Yeah, maybe they were glad that someone finally
do something about it.
To figure out a new way to tackle it, actually.
Okay, anyone else want to share their unique challenges? Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, my challenge is pretty central to what my actual pitch was. The fact that I'm not a software developer, I can't write code, or before this process couldn't write code. And with ChatGPT and other generative AI platforms coming out, that's changed the game for non-technical employees. And a big part of the pitch culture, which might happen or might not, is the fact that there's a lot of people in our industry and in all industries that have a huge amount of domain-specific knowledge. And if you can give software development capabilities to all of those people, who knows what we could build, and the infrastructure to be able to create things like this has never been easier. Like, I just did it in Google Sheets and wrote a bit of code behind it. I didn't have to do any reading or anything. You know what I mean? It's an iterative process, but it comes down to being able to communicate in your normal language. You don't have to have any specific knowledge of any certain concepts. You just tell the thing what you want it to do, and through that process, figure out a solution, and then you can act on it. So.
Yeah, that's great. With all your various work and the products that you came up with, how do you see that influencing the market research industry or your field of study? Yeah, Brian?
Well, with the Foresight framework itself, I would say we would hope that would influence and encourage people to be brave and bold and think that far out. The Foresight framework is set in 2030 and beyond to some extent as well. And it is being updated, and I mentioned in the 60 seconds it being moving from trend-based forecasts, but in reality we are still using trends, and they're obviously serving their purpose for the more near in. But we also have used it in order to inform the trends, so the trends informing the framework and vice versa. So it's been kind of a nice way to do that as well. Yeah.
Vanessa?
So, first of all, my pitch was about data democratization, and it's about making data easily accessible and equipping people with the right tools to interpret complex data without needing that technical expertise. And the latter part is exactly what my pitch was about. And overall, by doing that, you're kind of integrating different ideas and perspectives. If all these people from different fields can engage with complex data to derive meaningful insights. So you're integrating all these different perspectives, and you're putting the power into the hands of experts who are closest to the industry and closest to the market, but not necessarily data scientists or technical experts. So then overall, it kind of fosters a collaborative culture within market research. And that's what I talk about in my pitch as well. Like, it's more of a call to action in the market research industry to start thinking about democratizing your data.
Yeah, and it makes the process faster as well, right? Because you were telling me that in the past before that, people will need to come to you that have no technical background, and you have to like process the data and then come back to them, and then there's more questions.
Yeah, so it's a lot of that. It was a lot of that back and forth process when I worked on a project with a soft drinks company recently, and that's how this pitch and how this idea came up.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, it's like it leads to quite inflexible decision making as well, because my team members will have ideas and questions and hypotheses, and they'll have to rely on me to run it, only to, for example, have more follow-up questions later, or their needs have changed. So it's a lot of that. Whereas when you democratize data, you allow them to explore it independently. Like if they have a question, they go and seek the answers themselves. So yeah, it's pretty much that, faster insights and flexible decision making.
Yeah. And then there's sort of some similarity between your solution with Harry as well, in that you're helping non-technical people who, in this case, don't do data analysis or it's not software developers, to be able to bridge that gap and use technology, use data in a faster, better way. So what role do you think young researchers like yourself play in the future of market research? It's a very big question.
Yeah, I mean, so because of the case study or the study which I worked on, it got emphasized that I think human market researchers, and I specifically highlight human market research, really should focus on what makes them human and to be able to connect with humans. So when we talk about like this, or when I was talking about this creating virtual data, it can be applied to a lot of things, but then in the end of the day, it's still the people who kind of make those connections and give the context to it. And we should be really careful also of like how we kind of deal with this kind of data, that yes, there's a statistical model behind it, and there's some logic behind it. But in the end of the day, there's still a human who should make or put the context behind it. And yeah, like AI is there to help us, but it's also there like to replace some of the things which we do at the moment or make it more efficient. So yeah, I mean, I like to sometimes look into like other fields and industries or whatever to like see what happened there in terms of like automation or or AI. And one of my favorite things, which is chess. Chess engines nowadays are much better than humans. Yeah, chess is one of the most popular games right now, more popular than it was before machines came in and beat grandmasters. So what happened was like the chess players focused on what makes them unique, their play style, their being unpredictable, using AI to help them becoming a better player, but not using it to just like not playing chess at all, because that's not the point of it.
Maybe I want to rephrase the question slightly as well. So all of you guys here are under 30, so young researchers, and I don't know about the audience, if you guys are as young as we are, or maybe a lot older, but as young researchers, young players, newcomers in the industry, what do you guys feel are the values that you bring to this industry? And maybe it's the different way you approach problems or the fresh solutions that you came up with. Maybe there's some examples from your organization in how you see that playing out, and maybe you can share that with the audience.
I think it's both our value and also our role to have this critical look at the methodologies that we're using. So you start working, and if you start in market research, then you start learning the methodologies from doing the job, and you learn it from other people who've been doing it for a while. And after you know how it works, you're going to start thinking, all right, why are we doing it like this? And I think it's challenging, but it's also our role to stay critical and not just accept the methodologies as they are, and think about why are we doing it like this. So that's also why I did it like this. So.
Yeah, and I think younger generations are known to be very critical of things too.
Yeah, I can just bounce off that. I think also there's a level of naivety that you have when you're younger, because you're not tripped over and fallen flat on your face as many times. But I think that leads to questioning, and then it leads to why do we do things like this? And sometimes not having those failures in your back pocket means that you're happy to try stuff that has already been tried, but maybe in a slightly different way that might work. And I think it's an advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should also answer because in 3 months I'm also becoming 30, so I'm not qualified to answer after that, right? Yeah, so for me it's slightly different. Like again, as I said, like not a typical market research background, and then also that's a subject that's been a problem, like for physical products, like prototyping, testing prototypes and stuff, forever, honestly. And coming with a technical solution that people don't really understand, or that there is no, let's say, literature even academically to back the protocols that we run. So we have to kind of create, to not only ask the question, but also find the answers, and then make them a product. It's like extra work, everything. Like there is no math to do, let's say, GSR, X, let's say, eye tracking in virtual reality. What is the sample size? Nobody knows. Like we have to figure it out from scratch. So for me, I think it's like pushing the knowledge barrier as well as the market one at the same time.
Cool. Okay. Let's move on. So can you describe a key finding from your research that surprised you or challenged your initial assumptions?
Yeah. So one of the latest products that we built, and there's a couple companies that are doing it, is an AI moderated interviewer. And that sits in WhatsApp. And obviously it adapts its questions based on the responses and based on the research prompt or objective that you give it. And we allow for voice notes, videos, and text to be sent. And what's been really interesting is to see that about 40% of our responses come through as voice notes, where there's a choice between text and voice. And I think it's maybe more of an African thing, but in sort of a lot of African people, when they speak to friends and family on WhatsApp, they send very long-winded voice notes while doing other things. You know, I find it very annoying because it's like a long. But I think it's so interesting because what it's meant is that the average response that we're getting, sort of per message, is much higher than the text-based sort of a normal survey open text. So in the last study I saw this morning, we averaged 24 words per response, which was really high. So we're getting these incredibly detailed responses, and I think it's down to the fact that voice noting is so lazy at the end of the day, and people find it so easy. And I think it's just, again, it's like more of a WhatsApp thing in general, that it's part of your behavior, and it's like, it doesn't feel like you're having to go somewhere into a browser to then, do this and then come back. And I think, again, just like WhatsApp's got slightly different, or like a nuance to it that I think a browser-based survey or interview doesn't quite exhibit.
Yeah, and I think it also aligns with how people behave in different platforms, right? Like when it's WhatsApp, they think it's very casual, conversational, but once you go to the browser, then it feels like a bit more formal, and you're sort of more guarded in your response as well. Yeah. Anyone else want to answer this question? No? Not an interesting one. Okay.
One of the challenges that we did have, and kind of a surprising outcome from the research, so the specific research that I'm mentioning in the 60 seconds was really around a prepared meal space. So the foresight is obviously across all of food and beverage, but specifically when it came to prepared meals, it was seen as quite like not as innovative as maybe other subcategories. And so that was something that was maybe said from other people in the business who had a lot more experience than me. So I took that assumption and assumed it. But I suppose from doing the deep dive and from really understanding the category in that way, and also from talking to our experts that we did interview through the process, really opened my mind to how much innovation there actually is in that space. So that was really a good outcome and a good learning, but there's obviously a lot of space for further innovation as well. So.
Okay, so how has participating in the YES Award influenced your professional development or your perspective on research?
So for me personally, it really gave me the opportunity to talk to a lot of people that I usually don't work with, because the subject was not really focused on, now it's only consumer goods to focus on, or it's a really specific product, but I was really looking into the methodology and cultural response bias. And we actually have quite a few offices around the world. So I got to talk to one of my colleagues in Singapore and one of my colleagues in London and one of my colleagues in Rotterdam, but I never worked with them. And that was really nice because that also gives you a new perspective. And I actually learned about research that we already did, and I really found some things that I never knew were in our database. So that was really nice.
I think for me, the personal development bit is definitely like getting over the nerves of speaking, because all of these guys know I was super nervous about today's pitch. But that was just a really good opportunity to kind of get over that and and practice talking about something that you're like proud of and that you've developed. So yeah.
Maybe others can share how did the idea to enter the competition come about as well? What makes you want to join the competition?
It's hard to explain, really, but I think
Or maybe your boss asked you to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the real answer.
David sat there looking at me thinking, yeah, that's my award. No, I think it's good to. I think the biggest thing that I've learned from it is that this process has really shown that it's not that complicated, and I think a lot of things that we do aren't that complicated, but we overstep and we put barriers in our way to just giving it a go. And in this case, we just had a go and saw what came of it. But I think the mindset of just having a crack at something because you think you might have an idea and it can actually work out. Sometimes it might not, but it might do. Is a good thing to take away from this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Yeah?
Yeah, so to be very honest, I didn't think there was a topic that I was really passionate about until we started talking about topics and brainstorming a bit. And I kind of started sharing my experience with multi-market studies. And that's where I realized, you know what, this is really interesting. And I have a background in psychology, so I'm doing both quant research and qual research. And I'm always thinking about people's minds and how the mind works or how the brain works. And then I thought, I do have a passion. I never realized it, but now I really want to do something with it. So it kind of started with the boss, or at least colleagues say, all right, this is something you can do. But it was really nice that we got the opportunity, because sometimes you need a little push or like a little inspiration to find your passion or your creativity.
Yeah. I guess, like you said, some of the barriers could be like, firstly, you don't even know what you want to talk about, but the moment you get it out there and talk to other people, they sort of validate it as well. And yeah, so maybe if there are other younger researchers in the room, I don't know if there's actually any. And not, this is not me judging how old you guys look, but if there's any, what advice would you give them if they're actually thinking of entering the competition next year? What advice would you give them?
Well, I would advise to at least start brainstorming. Like, don't think that you don't have a passionate topic or anything. At least start brainstorming and just start talking about the things you encounter in your work, and that you'll probably find quite a few topics that you are passionate about, because these are the topics that you're working with every day. And I hope that you have a good reason to be working with it, and it's not just because you need a job. It's also because you like your job.
Yeah, I think I've had a couple of people actually, since we did the pitch this morning, come up to me and be like, our company actually has this problem as well. And I think sometimes there's an assumption that all problems are dealt with and everybody's got this fancy automated way of solving everything. But the reality is there's a lot of people who are doing a lot of manual work, because the effort to get to that stage is a lot. And I think having that opportunity to maybe try and do something like that is it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's also just be curious and like be confident that you're not sometimes inventing the wheel like new, right? Like, it's a lot of the things I'm talking about in my pitch is like, I've met plenty of people there who might think of this like similar way, but like sometimes presenting it from a different, hearing it from a different person, or hearing it from a different perspective, or hearing it in a different case study.
Yeah.
Like the example of chess, which I just put on, it gives people a different perspective, and that's also helpful. And that, so you can just think that way, and you don't have to be the Steve Jobs or something like this. Like, you know, just approach it in a way how you understand it, and maybe other people would understand it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that's my advice.
Yeah, and there's nothing new under the sun anyway. Everything is sort of recycled, adapted, and contextualized. So it's all about just putting yourself out there and then putting your unique spin to it.
Maybe I can give also startup perspective into this kind of thing, right? I think it's my answer is dual actually. So on the one hand, as a startup, you have very, very limited resources. So essentially, every time you get called to speak at a large audience, that could be your customers, collaborators, investors, like mentors, anything really. It's like a freelance that you should take because you don't know when you're gonna eat again, honestly, because you're running low on cash or anything really as a startup. So on the one hand, that's the thing. It's kind of a necessity for you to work, to make it work, for you to get out in the world. And on the other hand, also, like coming to an event and as a startup, probably you're saying something kind of that doesn't make much sense to many people. You know, it's kind of maybe polarizing, or people think you're crazy, or you have no clue what you're doing. Maybe you also think that about yourself, honestly, if you're a startup founder. And the thing is that being willing to kind of hear other people destroying kind of your idea is very good for you in the long term. So essentially, it's like validating what you're doing and finding the right collaborators.
Yeah.
I think, and then also just the young people. I think most founders generally don't regard themselves to be that exceptional when they start. But like for me, I just started trying things probably earlier than most, and that's led to this. And I think like probably the big trigger was actually making money on something when I was sort of maybe 16, and I realized that I could do it myself. And from there, just the ceiling started to rise and rise and rise, and realized I could do more and more. And I think the advice I would be giving people is to take a shot. And the same as like the coding. I also actually learned to code in exactly the same way as you described 2 years ago. And it just came about from starting and having a crack. And then from there, your confidence builds. So I would apply. I mean, if you're young, there's no harm in applying, you know, and just having a crack at whatever it is and not feeling like your age puts you out of being able to do something. Yeah.
Now, since Theodoros, you mentioned that as a startup founder, you have limited resource. So actually that ties in nicely with my next question, which is, if you had unlimited resources, what would be the next step in your research or in your problem solving or in your next step in your startup?
So for us, like some of the inputs were so rich, and it was obviously an extensive amount of research that had to go in. But with limited resources, we would obviously maybe do more of what we've done to get even more insights, especially like I mentioned from the expert interviewers. Like the richness of the insight from them was really good and really allowed us to stretch our thinking. And also, like you had mentioned earlier in your speech around looking cross-category, to really provide inspiration for the opportunity spaces that we come up with, whether it be prepared meals or another category. So that would be something I'd say, yeah, more of what we are already doing. But yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, yeah. Since you're insisting, like I think it would be a good and a bad thing. Like it would be like a blessing or a curse, honestly. If you're a startup and you have too much money to burn, well, you've seen a lot of, the startup graveyard websites that describe the fall of very well-funded companies. And that's the thing when you have too much resources available to you, but you have not yet pinpointed the problem in the industry or the right people to work with, it's very easy for you to do stupid things with all the resources you have. So I think having unlimited resources is not the best always. But if we did, I think it would be just much easier for us to like work faster towards what we're building and be more able to go to the, say, more events, pitch to more people, like increase our operations, let's say, pretty much.
Anyone else?
Yeah. I think I love what you said. I think it's really good. I think if I had a lot more resources, my wife would be a lot happier because I would be able to have more money. But I think software, when you're building, you have to be so careful with the resources that you allocate to each feature, particularly software, because you have to be really ruthless at figuring out what feature to build that then is going to make money. So in some ways, it's a good thing not to have too much money, because then it forces you to be very good at going through the motion of figuring that out. But for us, the feature that if we had unlimited resources, the feature that I would love us to build is actually an autonomous outreach system that, based on particular company events, the person or the customer that's involved in that event would receive a WhatsApp that would then ask them about that anomalous behavior. And it's starting to be rolled out in some of the companies in South Africa that are, say, once a customer goes into store and buys from Woolworths, that customer will receive a message specifically about the product that they purchased. And I think the extension of that is to be really in the moment, related to what someone does, or the anomaly behavior. As I said, could be purchasing, could be an issue that they had. And I think that's what we've identified as a really exciting next step for our business, is to build that in, and someone is just receiving a WhatsApp to ask about that behavior, and it's 1 or 2 questions and then it's done. Roadmap.
Okay, I'm surprised no one say they want to quit and go on endless holidays or something like that. Is it because your bosses are watching you right now? Okay, I'm actually done with all the questions that I have. And someone here gave me the idea that I should not do, but I think I will just do, which is to let the audience ask you guys questions. Would anyone like to ask them any question? Okay.
Harry's already putting me out of a job. You, Vanessa, are you worried that you might be putting yourself out of a job if you're creating a product that will allow someone like me to do your job? What will you do next?
I was expecting this question. Well, the answer is no, because essentially what I was talking about, the analysis that I was doing, where I wanted to democratize it was a very manual routine. It was still coding and statistical modeling, but it was quite manual, and I actually didn't really need to be doing it. So from kind of removing myself from that process, it's given me a lot more time for model and process improvement, which makes our results ultimately better. And overall, from what I've been saying about the benefits of this, it just makes our insights better as well. So no. It'll be it'll have kind of richer benefits. Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe one more question okay.
So first of all, congratulations to all of you for being here. This is so interesting. And just a comment for you. I forgot your name. I don't know if this is a question or just a comment, but your topic is so relevant and so powerful and real in the industry. I struggle a lot with the big agencies, Ipsos, Kantar, when they come with a questionnaire. No, this is my methodology, and I say okay, is this brand relevant to you? That means nothing in Spanish. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And the answer is this is my methodology. I can't move, I can't change anything. And that's absolutely crazy, right? So it is so powerful that people young, like you, come with some ideas that even the largest companies in research can't see. So congratulations to you, to your work, and all of you too.
Oh, thank you for that. And it's her name is Jamie.
Thank you.
Yeah, go for it. Yep.
I know you guys already said you were pushed or motivated by your boss to come here. I'm a representative for Dominican Republic, so one of my goals is to bring more of the JES member or students from the colleges to come to Esomar, and even better, to participate to this kind of papers. And even though if you don't win, you put yourself out there, you practice, and that's something even people let's say, more mature to say older, wouldn't do. So that's perfect. So what I want to know is, rather than otherwise than pushing them to come here, because we open like, hey, we pay for all, you come with us to Greece if you want to do this, and they are so afraid they won't do it, or they think they won't be like good enough, or they think they will be ashamed or something. In your own words, how can I connect with the youngs, with the YES members from Dominican Republic, so they come here next year and they can stand on the scenario and talk like you would, like, go for it?
I would say start with a very low threshold, so just keep it an open brainstorm, like I said before. I was just talking to my colleague today, and I said to her, last year I watched the pitches, and I thought, wow, this is really good. I'm never going to do that. I will never be up there because I would be too nervous. And I just signed up for the brainstorm because I thought, it's just interesting to talk with my colleagues about their challenges and my challenges. And somehow I ended up here, and never realizing that I was up for this. So I would just start with really low-key, let's talk about it. And you don't have to do it.
Baby steps.
Baby steps, yeah.
I was just thinking as well, like, I just submitted it, and when you get the email to say that someone has said, you're a finalist, I felt like I'd won already. Like, all of this is just a bonus. You know what I mean? Like, it's having something that you've spent a lot of time doing recognized, and even that initial email was like, right, straight on LinkedIn, I'm putting this file in. All of that was instant recognition, and then we've all sat here and been petrified. The people who are more used to speaking than others, and we were all absolutely petrified before we stepped up on that stage. But I feel like there's not one of us that's going to go home and be like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. So it's just been a really nice group, and yeah, it's well worth it.
I was just going to say, like, there's literally no downside of applying for this. Like, even if you apply and don't get in, you've already developed your skills to be able to pitch one of your ideas, and that's already a very good thing. And then if you do get in, like we've all been talking about, like we've all been super nervous and having a bit of imposter syndrome. But like it all works out fine. There's literally nothing bad that happens. So yeah, I would say that.
I mean, yeah, for me, because like, I don't think I was like pushed or something like this, but I was really, well, one, I was praised by a lot of my seniors, and that's, I think, so valuable because like, as a young researcher, you don't read, like, you do your job and, you go to the next project, but hearing like, hey, Tim, like, what you've done there, that was actually really smart, that was really cool. You should share it with other people, and I think that's like, was probably one of the biggest like encouragements for me, like people actually praising my work. They say, hey, you've done actually a good job, and yeah, so that's why I'm here, and I think that's what a lot of seniors should do as well, just praise the juniors.
The only thing I was going to add is back to your point as well, but it's really around accepting that imposter syndrome. Like, I was like two startup co-founders here. I'm like, God. But I mean, I think it's around accepting that that's going to be the case. That probably might not, or it didn't go away for me when I was a finalist. I still felt, God, am I really going to do this with the people I'm surrounded by? But like we were saying, I think it's been an excellent experience. It pushed us outside our comfort zone. So yeah, as you said, there's no downside really.
If we done only one thing, I think it also is about building a culture that successes or even like thinking differently should be kind of celebrated, right? Not only in like big, let's say big stages, but also in smaller stages, like within the company, like within the team, nationally at an event. I think it takes, let's say, a good company culture or a good culture in general to be able to progressively, raise the stakes. And yeah, it's not gonna be that from day one we can do everything, but you have to aim for that in a way. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your questions, and I think we have come to the end of the panel, which is also the moment that you guys have been waiting for, I will announce the 3 winners shortly. So out of the 7, there are 3 that will be the winners. I will not announce the order, first, second, third. We will know that on Wednesday itself, so that there's a bit more suspense. But I will announce the 3 people who will then do the next round, Pecah Kucha presentation. But maybe before that, maybe if... yeah, no. So before that, maybe each of you can just say one line if the audience, one thing that the audience should take away or should remember about you before I announce the winner. So we just go from here, maybe, Vanessa, and then we go. Can be anything.
Everyone democratize your data.
Yeah, I would really say try thinking about the countries that you're testing in and really try thinking about other cultures, not only yours.
I would say with the Future Length, the Foresight program, while there's 7 scenarios, we're not trying to say that we're predicting the future. So applying and clashing them together allows us for more opportunity for success in the innovations that we do create then as well.
I'm going to keep it short, I think. Think about what you're good at, focus on that.
I would just say if there's anyone here who's not yet tried something like ChatGPT, because I know that you're out there. A lot of people have, but a lot of people also haven't. It's the easiest technology you'll ever try. Like, my granddad uses it, and he can't use a mobile phone. So, like, just try it, because, like Tim said, you can focus on the stuff that you're not good at, but it's going to start filling in the gaps of the stuff that you're not.
I got my own. I think I'm going to give a message not relevant to what I pitched, but more like support startups by testing their products and telling them why they suck, and then allowing them to make them better. No, honestly, I think honest feedback and opportunity is what people miss to feel more motivated to innovate. So yeah.
Yeah, on that. So if anyone does want to do research in emerging markets, I think WhatsApp's really good. And my name is Tim Trigas, and you can come chat to me.
Okay, thanks everyone. So now I'll announce the 3 winners in no particular order. So the first, remember, no particular order, okay? Okay, so the first one is, drum rolls, Vanessa. Okay, the second one is Timothy Trigas. And lastly, Jamie. Okay, so congrats everyone, and thank you for the audience as well who's listening to the panel. That's all that we have for today.